So a few months ago, I read this. They should make a nature doc about Pandora's animals. And I was like, well, somebody has to do it. So did I dedicate 3 months of my life to make an hour-and-a-half long video because of one comment? Yeah. Even though Pandora is a moon, it's still around the same size as Earth. If Earth was orbiting Neptune, that would be the equivalent of Pandora orbiting Polyphemus. Like Earth, Pandora contains rainforests, deserted plains, savannas, mountainous regions, oceans, lakes, rivers, streams, ponds, puddles, volcanoes, and you get the point. But unlike Earth, Pandora has a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere paired with high amounts of carbon dioxide. It also has high amounts of hydrogen sulfide erupting out of hundreds of volcanoes that are scattered across the moon. So Pandora may talk like Earth, it may walk like Earth, but it can't be Earth. The point that I'm trying to make here is that it wasn't built for humans, meaning the animals or the fauna on the moon are gonna be pretty darn interesting. So we're gonna talk about them. So here's a guide to like all the fauna on Pandora. Before we cautiously trek out into the dangers of Pandora, it seems like a good time to talk about something that's going to keep you safe from the dangers of the internet, which would be no one other than our sponsor, Surfshark VPN. If you're looking to keep your personal identity and data safe from these big companies, dare I say, criminals? Well, it's actually really good timing, because Surfshark does exactly that. With the selection of 3,200 plus servers in 100 plus countries, you can swap your relocation for a completely new one. Like right now, it says I'm in Sweden, and no one has to know about it. Well, except for you guys, because I just told you. Being able to change your location helps you access content libraries and streaming services that may not be available in your country, and makes it so that your city, country, or download history is not linked to your personal identity, as well as keep your information safe when you're using stuff like public Wi-Fi. And the list just keeps going, people. And the best part, Surfshark does not monitor, track, or store what you do online. If you click on that Surfshark link in the description below, and then type in promo code Bryce, you're gonna get 83% off your subscription and an extra 3 months. For free. Anyway, now that we're all feeling safer, let's get back into the danger. I thought it would make sense to go in order from cutest to most cutest, but it probably makes more sense if we just work our way up the food chain, so we're gonna do that. I'm also gonna divide up the animals by land, air, and water. Oh, and I also timestamped the video, so feel free to scroll through the chapters if you want to specifically learn more about a particular animal like an elu or a slinger. Here's the land animals, and let's start with the smallest of the small, like Manducus taurus, a Pandoran neural microparasite that's 8.2 micrometers long. It's said that it's like really easy for humans to pick up these things when moving around Pandora, so they make sure to definitely kill off the microbes before the RDA scientist makes the link with their avatar, because it's literally a neural parasite. At nighttime, all of the plant life and creatures on Pandora light up with some form of bioluminescence, like glowworms, or in the Na'vi language, Altunyang. These worms usually glow up to 3 to 6 inches long, and come in either purple, red, or orange with stripes. They're found all over the rainforest floor, and some kinds are even found in the Hallelujah Mountains. Like the worms we know and love back on Earth, the glowworms eat decayed plants, fungi, and leaves, and basically help biodegrade everything that dies. The constant glowing of the worm made it the perfect specimen that would be used to light up bladder lanterns. These kinds of lanterns are seen all over Hometree, right before Hometree stopped existing. Some Na'vi clans will use this worm as a snack for animals that they're trying to tame, turning the worm into like a dog treat, which is really interesting because these little guys contain a psychoactive compound that is actually used in the dream hunt ceremony. So I guess animals react to the psychoactive compound differently than how the Na'vi react to it. But anyway, we'll talk more about that in a second. Next, we're gonna talk about Telu, or in the Na'vi language, Telu, the Megan equivalent of Pandora. These delicious looking snacks can grow up to a whopping 8 centimeters long. Na'vi clans like the Omaticaya rely on this little thing for their main source of protein, and they're apparently the main source of protein for the hexapede and the stern beast, and you know, basically a lot of other animals. The better they taste, the more protein they're likely to have in them.
Watch them damn fine Telu. It's my grandma's Telu.
In Avatar and Activist Survival Guide, it's reported that the Telu tastes slightly sweet, similar to something like a jumbo shrimp, and usually fried and salted. The Na'vi, and most of Pandora, may snack on the Telu, but the Telu snacks on decayed vegetation, moss, small insects, and when all the animals that we're going to talk about, including the Na'vi, eventually die, the Telu gets its revenge by eating them. Their ability to decompose dead animals and plants makes them essential to the ecosystem. Telu hangs out in these very damp, moist, areas and tends to breed quicker in highly concentrated amounts of waste.
Martelo.
Next, we're going to talk about the literal pest of Pandora, the wolf tick, or this name in the Na'vi language that I can't pronounce yet. These little guys cling on to larger animals like a stern beast or a hammerhead titanothere. The wolf tick digs its fangs and thorax into an unsuspecting animal, and once it's like dug in there, it's gonna stay on its host for up to 8 days. The only thing that would remove a wolf tick from its host during that time period would be the animal physically removing it from their own body, or if the animal dies, because the wolf tick really only feeds on living creatures. But the wolf tick's body has a dark purple and blue design with yellow highlights, so I guess it has some redeeming qualities. Speaking of psychoactive compounds, the arachnoid, or Caliweya, are these 7-inch creatures also known as the scorpions of Pandora. You can briefly see one right here during Jake's first outing in the year 2154. And now we can talk more about Dream Hunt. An arachnoid cripples and subdues its prey with an incredibly strong neurotoxin, typically by using its stinger. But when the venom from the arachnoid is paired with the compound from the glowworm, it can cause some intense prophetic hallucinations. This is done to help supply the Na'vi with a true vision from Eywa during the Omatikaya's Dream Hunt ceremony. When out in nature, the arachnoid feeds on other smaller insects, like a glowworm. The arachnoid is typically found in the rainforest, but different subspecies are found all over Pandora. The only place that these things aren't found would be the regions containing hydrogen sulfide erupting volcanoes, as the arachnoid tends to stay away from the hundreds of hydrogen sulfide erupting volcanoes for some reason. Now we're gonna talk about one of my favorite animals, the fan lizard, or Kenten. This is allegedly Dr. Grace Augustine's favorite animal, which explains why it's one of Kiri's favorite animals, and I can definitely understand why it's making everyone's favorite list. This lizard is mostly known for its defense maneuver, which gives it the name fan lizard. The color of the lizard is brown and yellow to better help blend in with the environment, but if it senses a predator, it will summon this flap that comes out of its body right here, and the fan that comes out of it glows bright purple and yellow as it spins. An adult fan lizard grows up to be like 12 inches long, but when it's in full propeller mode, the fan is on average 3 feet 4 inches in diameter. This bioluminescent flap turns like a propeller, lifting the creature up and transporting it to another branch. I'd imagine that the fan lizard tries not to spin in propeller mode for too long, as it causes its entire body to spin as well, which would possibly disorient the creature. Most Na'vi and humans will mess with it because of this cool looking trait. So the fan lizard basically evolved to be annoyed all the time. It's an omnivore, so it feeds on stuff like tree sap or small insects, and it's known to hang out in the swamps of the rainforest. There's a dance that the Omatikaya perform in celebration of this little spectacle, where a group of Na'vi, typically children, collectively mimic the shape of the fan when the creature gets startled. You'd think that the chorus crab, or Torsum, would be living near Pandora's oceans, but nah. This 5-foot-long nightmare fuel of a critter is roaming around the rainforest floor. Its design is clearly inspired by the horseshoe crab that we have back on Earth. Except this crab possesses yellow eyes, has quills on its back that are meant to deter anything attacking it from behind, and of course it has 20 unsettling multi-jointed legs. The Tipani clan takes slain chorus crabs, and then they create their own armor and shields out of their shells. The tapir, or Fwampo, also known as the tapirs of Pandora, don't let all of this armor plating on its back fool ya. This little piggy is constantly getting eaten by larger predators, which is a shame because these animals are actually really friendly. Na'vi domesticated them enough to where they can be kept as pets, and like dogs, they can be easily trained, as they reward them during the training with stuff like glowworms. See, we're learning things. But knowing that the Na'vi keep them around as pets, as something equivalent to like a cat or a dog, it makes it kind of up that some of the Na'vi, including the Omatikaya, farm them for eating. You can often see the tapirs hanging around the Na'vi settlements eating grass. Like right here, when Grace Augustine is welcomed back into the Omatikaya settlement. The tapir has flat feet like an elephant, 4 neural cues on the front of its face, and a pair of eyes on the front and back of its head, which once again, doesn't really help as they're constantly being eaten. They stick in small groups and clump together in one large group at night because they're constantly being eaten. When this walking deli sandwich is getting attacked, the only line of defense talents that it has is to cry and scream at the top of its lungs. The tapir's scream attracts other predators because they hear that a tapir is nearby, and as we all know by now, the tapirs are meant to be eaten. So the only way that the tapirs won't get eaten is by calling on other predators to challenge the OG predator over who's gonna eat the tapir. And when the new predator is attacking the OG predator, then the tapir finds a moment to run away. This scream is actually really useful for stuff like security, as Na'vi from the Omaticaya surround Home Tree with tapirs as a living alarm system. Something closer to the tapir would be the saberhog, or Rungfuam. That is a really just an educated guess for the pronunciation of that. Like the tapir, the saberhog is another herbivore. It's rocking 2 neural cues on top of its head with blue highlights on each end. It has a brown and orange armor-plated body, hooved feet like a horse, pronounced canines, and tentacles on the front of their face. We don't know much about the saberhog yet, because it briefly appeared in Avatar Pandora Rising, but that mobile game was pulled from the App Store and the game servers were shut down, and like my dreams and aspirations, it just stopped existing. So hopefully the saberhogs are able to appear in future video games like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora or something else, so we can learn more about them. The Prolimeris, or Ciaxu, are basically the monkeys of Pandora, because they kind of look like monkeys but with 2 extra arms. They also act like monkeys and spend most of their time, or basically all of their time, in the canopies. This creature can grow up to 1 meter tall, but only weighs 14 pounds. This is due to their hollow bones paired with their porous muscles and flesh. These features allow them to reach as far as like 3 feet when swinging from branches. Also, this stretch of skin on either side of its body helps it glide to harder to reach branches, giving it the same capabilities as a flying squirrel. Their lightweight combined with these wings makes it so that they can fall up to 40 feet without getting injured, and they can fall up to 50 feet without getting severely injured. The PSYOPs, or science operations of the RDA, consider this animal to be a herbivore, but the animal is also known to sometimes eat insects crawling around up there in the canopy. So kind of like that one friend who claims they're vegan, but then occasionally has, you know, meat all the time. These creatures have incredibly sensitive hearing, and their ears move around to pinpoint a certain noise, just like a Na'vi's. We know that other animals on Pandora have a bunch of eyes, specifically 4, so just like 2 more than we're used to. But like the Na'vi, these guys only have 2 as well. And once again, like the Na'vi, they have 1 cue. In fact, when looking at the evolutionary timeline of all the animals on Pandora, this is the closest animal to a Na'vi. The Prolimeris talk to each other in a very advanced way, making them probably the 3rd most intelligent creature on the moon. The Prolimeris basically developed their own tribes up there in the trees. They have rituals to establish who's the leader, kind of like how certain Na'vi can challenge each other to one-on-one combat for the position of Olu-Ektan, or clan leader. Like the Na'vi clans, it's rare for the tribes to go into battle with each other. Also, the Prolimeris are kind of busy, as mating season happens 3 times a year. Each mating season consists of the males breeding with multiple women. However, the males don't mate for dominance, they mate for necessity. The Prolimeris have a matriarchal system, where the female decides who she wants to mate with. And on that note, welcome to the flightless bird section of the video, where I introduce the Ostripede, also known as the ostriches of Pandora. The 13-foot tall Ostripede has wings that don't work, orange eyes, bright yellow and orange skin, no fur, a really tall neck, a tail almost as long as one of its legs, and a big old beak for a mouth. We're all assuming that this thing used to have real wings, but those wings shrunk down over time to these incomprehensibly small flaps that you see right here. The only function that these wings serve nowadays is to indicate when the animal is afraid. These animals are friends of the Na'vi, but are kind of off the rails, as their behavior is extremely unpredictable. I can understand why, though. I mean, this animal looks like it's walking around with a target on its back. This brings us to the next flightless bird, the great Ostripede. It's a known relative of the Ostripede, which is why they have similar names. And like the Ostripede, this animal stands on 2 legs, but it stands about 3 feet taller than the Ostripede. Unlike the Ostripede, the great Ostripede has 2 arms with 3 horrifyingly long fingers or claws. Although it can't use its wings for flight, it uses what's left of them to scare away predators. This creature also has yellow yellow-orange eyes, and blue skin with stripes kind of like a Na'vi. It also has cool orange and yellow patterns on it, like a Pale or dire horse, an animal that we're going to talk about in just a moment. It has 2 neural cues attached to its head, so it can be ridden by Na'vi, mostly by the Na'vi clans who live in the savannas of Pandora. The hexapods, or in the Na'vi language, Yeri, are shockingly another 6-legged, 4-eyed herbivore, snacking on snacks like the celia fruit, squid fruit, or bark from a lizard tree. They have these black brittles that kind of look like fur running down their back, which looks pretty neat. The average height of a hexapod is 7 feet 6 inches, and the average length is about 5 feet 9 inches. Their natural habitat is either in the rainforest, savannas, mountainous regions, or even subarctic tundras. But they typically stick to the grasslands where they have a higher chance of survival, as an open grassland offers the opportunity to better see incoming predators so that they can run away from them. However, a hexapod will occasionally venture into the forest to eat some of that tree bark and various other berry options. Because this animal is constantly preyed on by the forest banshees, the mountain banshees, Turuk, swarms of stingbats, Na'vi, and so on, it evolved to have an incredible sense of hearing and smell, and just overall excels in every sense in the book because it needs to detect predators. These 2 little tentacles right here are not neural cues or kuru. They're there to help them smell the air and see if anyone's about to pounce. Like a defenseless butterfly, each hexapod has these little flaps that rise up when it thinks a predator is nearby. These flaps make the animal look taller and more scary than they actually are, because, I mean, look at that cute little face. The one thing that's keeping this species from going extinct is how quickly they can reproduce. They may be the deer of Pandora, but gee dang it, do they repopulate like bunnies. The hexapod is the first animal a Na'vi hunter is able to kill before they move on to the rite of passage, known as Ikni Maya. For most Na'vi clans, the hexapod is their main source of food, other than that sweet, sweet Telu.
It's my grandma's Telu.
Na'vi clans like the Omaticaya use every part of the animal, and make sure none of it goes to waste. Leather made from the skin of the hexapod is used to make clothing and armor for Na'vi warriors. This leather is also used to make instruments for the Omaticaya or Blue Flute clan. Some of these instruments can be spotted in this deleted scene, as the leather from the hexapod is used to make the drums of war right here. The clothing the Na'vi warriors are wearing during this dance is also made from the leather of a hexapod. And of course, they make hexapod toys. The dire horse, or Pale. The dire horse kind of serves the same purpose as the horses we have back on Earth before he invented cars and stuff, and broke the second law of Ewa, which is neither shall you use the turning wheel. Unlike our horses, the Pale have 6 legs, 4 eyes, have stripes like a Na'vi, carbon fiber plated shoulders, carbon fiber plated back, and of course, a carbon fiber plated neck. With the carbon fiber being located in these specific locations, it gives off the impression that the dire horse evolved to be ridden by Na'vi. They've got operculums, 4 pairs to be specific. And for those who don't know what that is, it's a bony flap that's protecting the nostrils along its neck. Each Pale is on average 4.25 meters long and 4 meters tall. This animal is the main form of ground transportation for the Na'vi, and most of the time it's almost essential for hunting. But how does a Na'vi ride a Pale, you ask? Okay, I know you didn't ask that, but I'm trying to segue here. They have these 2 antennas on the top of their head right here, and we know these as their neural cues, or kuru. The Na'vi can connect their cue to the cue of a Pale, or any other animal that has one of these cues, like a great ostripede. Once connected to the dire horse, the Na'vi can feel what the animal feels, and are able to control where the animal goes. A Na'vi will most likely have no problem attempting to ride any dire horse. They have a good selection too, because dire horses stick together in herds within the hundreds, and they all apparently move together like sheep. Pale typically live in the rainforest and grasslands of Pandora, but can pretty much adapt to live anywhere on their moon, except the ocean. They are herbivores who mainly eat the bark of trees, shrubs, and their tongues have grown long enough to fit into these plants that are appropriately named leaf pitchers to eat that toasty nectar that's inside of them. Making the bond with the dire horse allows the rider to tell the dire horse where to go. But what happens when the rider is dismounted and their cues are disconnected? Well, they rely on the dire horse leads to guide the creature. The leads are usually woven out of stuff like tensile fiber and animal leather, and the Na'vi slide them loosely over the animal's head because they don't want to hurt the dire horse or make them feel uncomfortable. And I know what you're thinking, and yes, there are specific bows for combat while riding a dire horse. This type of bow is conveniently named The dire horse bow. The build is around 3 meters tall, and it weighs roughly around 3.6 kilograms. This wooden bow has a handle that's wrapped in scaled animal skin, and the string is made from the gut of a stern beast. The dire horse bow offers a shorter base and a low hand grip, so the rider of the dire horse has better maneuverability while riding that dire horse into warfare. This bow tends to be the most decorated of all the bows, so even though the bow is incredibly fashionable and used in a lot of ceremonies for that said reason, the bow is incredibly effective when put into use during combat. This is where the video enters the danger zone. The Viper Wolf, or Nantang. This puppy right here is the one that wounded Colonel Miles Quaritch. The iconic scar on his face is from 4 Viper Wolf claws. Each wolf has 6 legs and 6 paws, but these paws each have an opposable thumb, which makes them a lot scarier than the normal wolves we have back on Earth, specifically because it gives them the ability to climb trees. What did they say in the original script? Oh yeah, the Viper Wolves can run like a dog and climb like a monkey. Their paddle-like tails helps them balance when alternating from the ground to the trees. They also have a sense of smell that's as good as a Thanator's, but more on that much larger puppy in a second. The Viper Wolf is rocking 4 green eyes, and these eyes evolve to give them night vision at nighttime, which is really convenient because it tends to be dark at night, and night vision helps you see at night as it gives you night vision during nighttime. Because of their very strong sense of smell, these wolves can pick up on potential prey from 5 miles away. The body of the Viper Wolf does have armor plating, just mainly around its neck and spine. The average Viper Wolf can grow more than 1 meter tall and more than 2 meters long. And another fun fact, because you can't have too many fun facts, the strength of their jaws are strong enough to break through any of the bones in your body. A pack of Viper Wolves consists of about 10 to 12 of them. They work together to track prey, like this moment in the year 2154, when they chase after Jake Sully and successfully surround him. And they would have definitely eaten him too if Neytiri didn't intervene. When they're on the hunt, they kind of sound like hyenas laughing. And during this moment where they're chasing after Jake, you can hear all the noises they use to communicate with each other. What you and I just listened to was the Viper Wolves communicating with each other so they know where to go when they're fully surrounding their prey. Viper Wolves live in the rainforest or grasslands, and a pack of Viper Wolves can claim a territory of around 300 miles, or 480 kilometers. Sometimes when a pack runs into each other or encroaches on the other pack's territory, it can get violent, as they're extremely territorial. Na'vi, like the Omaticaya clan, have found a natural way to repel the Viper Wolves from settlements like the now extinct Home Tree. They do this by using a special type of plant sap that mimics the scent of a slinger, which effectively keeps the wolves out. Don't worry, actually, you know what, do worry, because we're going to be learning about slingers later on, and you're going to be really grateful that you live 4.5 light years away from this monster. Anyway, the humans have these repulsor pods that emit high-frequency sonic pulses to deter these predators from going near Hell's Gate. The humans can't hear the noise, but the wolves surely can. These repulsors are mainly used when they're doing repairs on the fences and when they need to do maintenance around the perimeter. The repulsors are the last line of defense when it comes to keeping animals like the Viper Wolf out of the Sky People's territory. Like a female wolf back on our planet, which is Earth, the female Viper Wolf gives birth to a bunch of puppies. This puppy madness only lasts for a couple of months, because then the mother has to teach these mini Viper Wolves how to fight and how to hunt in the wild. And she doesn't have that much time, because within a year the Viper Wolf goes from this little puppy to a full-grown adult. There are 3 subspecies of the Viper Wolf. The first one being the Leucomelus Viper Wolf. These ones are able to emit short static flashes of light to help stun their prey. Their eyes are yellow and their skin is blue and white, symbolic of their ability. Subspecies number 2 is no other than the Galactodontis Viper Wolf. Its skin gains the color of red, orange, and yellow, kind of like flames. It has a bigger mouth and longer quills than any other Viper Wolf species. They have heightened senses, which is a good thing, but it works against them when it comes to the Sky People's repulsors, as the frequency is a lot tougher on them. But on the bright side, they possess a healing enzyme in their bloodstream so that they can heal quicker than any other animal out there. This enzyme is believed to cause their distinctive red color. Now on to the 3rd subspecies, the Wasp Viper Wolf. What's so different about this guy? Well, for starters, they have yellow eyes, yellow lines all over their body, making them black and yellow, you know, like a wasp. But most importantly, their genes allow these puppies to become virtually invisible. How is that possible? No idea. The Sky People's repulsors have been known to ruin their invisibleness by making them visible again after hitting them with that sonic pulse. And number 4 of the Viper Wolf subspecies, because I forgot that there was 4 and not 3, deal with it. The 4th one is the flat-tailed Viper Wolf. This tends to be the most least interesting Viper Wolf out of the various subspecies, which is probably why I forgot about it in the first place. Their only special power is having longer hind legs that give the animal the ability to jump at prey from a farther distance. They have a stronger jaw than the other Viper Wolves, which is pretty cool. They're also a lot skinnier for some reason, probably to help with the whole jumping at prey from a longer distance thing. I'm assuming it has a flat tail, but the only picture I could find of the flat-tailed Viper Wolf is conveniently cutting off the area that would contain said tail. The most interesting thing about this Viper Wolf would be how it's rocking the colors of green, purple, and pink. And if you're in the market to be immensely underwhelmed by a Viper Wolf subspecies, you can find them in the wetlands. Most of the subspecies of the Viper Wolf are found in the video game James Cameron's Avatar, the video game, so I doubt we're gonna see these in any upcoming movies or video games. But a girl can dream. The Sternbeast, or Talioan. To the humans, they're known as the blue-horned cow. And for the Na'vi, these buffalo equivalent are almost as important as the hexapede in terms of food sources. Hunting down a Sternbeast is a rite of passage for the Na'vi. In fact, Jake actually does hunt one of these down using a banshee during his journey to become a warrior. Jake is able to snipe one of these Sternbeasts during a stampede. Oh, and I almost forgot. Like most animals that stick in herds, the Sternbeasts stampede if one of them gets spooked. Their stampedes go on for a bit, as the creatures are slow to react to things and need a lot of time to calm down from being in this aggressive stampede mode. Even though these guys look threatening with their big ol' horns, 6 powerful legs, the fact that they weigh up to 900 kilograms, can grow up to 7 meters tall and 6 meters long, and they're just, you know, really big and threatening in general, you don't really have to worry about them hunting you because they're herbivores who mainly eat grass and shrubs and fungi. However, the time to fear them is if you get near one of their calves or their food, but mainly their calves, because the Sternbeasts are extremely protective over their calves. Like, don't get near their calves. Out of their 2 horns, they use the bottom ones to dig up stuff like tree roots so that they can snack on them. And they use the top one for fighting, and they'll definitely use it to fight you if you get near one of their calves. The males are about 15% larger than the females and have a larger bone that's lining their back. The Sternbeasts have very poor eyesight, like worse than mine, which is saying a lot, because, hold on, like, look how thick this prescription is. Look at that. And they're pretty dirty too. Huh. They make up for this Bryce Edward Brown level of poor eyesight by being able to smell predators coming from 3 kilometers away. The predators they tend to fight off are banshees, the Great Leonupturks, packs of viper wolves, or a single Thanator. When they're not eating or defending their territory, the Sternbeasts are incredibly social with each other. The location with the highest concentrated Sternbeast population would be Graves Bog. They tend to congregate here because of the high amount of watering holes. As mentioned earlier, the Sternbeasts travel in herds, meaning they all travel together from one watering hole to the other. It's pretty cute. When it comes to the Sternbeast relationship with the Na'vi, clans like the Omaticaya make hides out of their skin and use their bones to help build stuff, like the Sternbeast gong made from the armor plating of the animal. After the poison-fueled fever dream we all know as Dream Hunt, the vision of the Na'vi warriors communicated to the leaders, and the clan recreates the vision during a feast. In Jake Sully's case, they were feasting on a Sternbeast. Sternbeast hunting is a difficult challenge, because when one of the Sternbeasts get the hint that they're being hunted, the rest of them go like, "We gots to go!" And then they all stampede away. So Na'vi warriors pursue the Sternbeasts on Dire Horse or on Banshee. In order to take down this animal, they have to aim their hunting spears or arrows at the Sternbeast operculum. This is the animal's weak spot, and if you successfully hit it in said operculum, the animal has this tendency of collapsing to the rainforest floor and being eaten by the Omaticaya later on. The Slinth. It's got a blue and yellow line going from its neck all the way down to its tail. On the front of its head, it has these flaps like hexapedes, except these flaps are 4 armor plates in the shape of an X, and they're used to cover up the fangs of the creature until they're ready to attack. They spend most of their day sleeping in the lower canopy of the jungle. That is until they get hungry. The animal moves incredibly fast when stalking its prey, and when it finally catches up to said prey, the Slinth injects them with a powerful neurotoxin. This neurotoxin is going to paralyze its prey, so the Slinth can, eat them alive. It's not really ideal to run into the Slinth if you're on the wrong side of the food chain. This neurotoxin is actually used by Na'vi for medicinal purposes, using it as a numbing agent when the Na'vi is in pain. And they found a way to extract the venom without hurting the animal. No, it can't be that time yet. Oh, come on, it is that time. The Slingers, or Lanaika, son of a
No! I wouldn't do that, sir.
This creature haunts my daydreams, clocking in at 2.4 meters tall and 5-something meters long. This creature is kind of like the opposite of a Sean Kingston song. I don't want it to take me there. I can't watch Avatar anymore without thinking like, this thing is just out there. Okay, great. There's no avoiding this, so let's just get into it. Here's how the monster hunts. It completely detaches its head from its body by shooting it into its prey. The sharp, pointy end of its head is filled with oceans of venom. Once the head, or dart, of this abomination hits its prey, it begins to emit an ear-piercing, high-pitched noise, which lets the body know where it's at. This beast is known to be incredibly slow and silent, so that its prey has no idea what's about to go down. So the release of the dart is just way more terrifying. Don't worry, it gets worse. When the body and the head are finished consuming the now annihilated prey, they reconnect and just continue on. The Slinger is able to reattach its head because of Kuru. You remember the bond, the neural whips that connect a Na'vi to an animal? Yes, this walking disaster has neural cues inside of it. Why is that, you ask? Well, it's because there's actually two entities inside of this one body. The head is the child, and from the neck down is the parent. So the mother and the child have their own separate cues that connect inside of their body. When the head, also known as the kid, gets old enough, it fully detaches from the main body, aka the parent, and then the kid moves around like a mini slinger. Then when the dart's old enough, it's gonna mate with another slinger who is cursed into existence. When the child leaves the body permanently, the parent's part of the body then has no way to hunt, so it will crawl around until its inevitable death. I don't know, just be grateful that you live 4.5 light years away from this monster. I think I speak for everyone when I ask James Cameron, why? Anyway, the Hammerhead Titanotheres, or Unse. To start, we got 6 legs, 6 tree trunk feet, and 4 eyes. They're on average 11 meters long and 6.5 meters tall, and almost twice the size of an African elephant, meaning the hammerheads weigh more than 20,000 pounds. To be fair, most of their height is thanks to these crests that consist of purple, blue, and sometimes orange flaps. Like a peacock and its feathers, the hammerhead is known to raise these flaps when it's trying to scare away any potential predators. The flaps aren't just used for defense, they're used for mating. Like most creatures we've encountered so far, these ones are very territorial, and because of the whole African elephant ×2 thing, it makes them incredibly dangerous. Like an elephant, this animal is going to make itself appear as tough and big as it possibly can, mainly by stomping its feet, roaring, showing off them flaps, or maybe even charging at the potential hostile to scare it away. But after all of that, if the individual holds their ground, the hammerhead's gonna back off, well, most of the time. Mainly because these creatures are not into eating Na'vi like Jake Sully, as the hammerheads are herbivores. When animals like the Thanator enter the AOL chat room, the hammerheads are gonna group together like freaking Power Rangers and mighty morph into a wall to scare away this predator. You can spot the alpha hammerhead over here, right here, standing front and center of this blockade. I don't know how often these attacks happen, but the only predators the hammerheads have to worry about are from the Thanator and the Great Leonopterx. I'm assuming that the wall doesn't really help against the Great Leonopterx. Right below the flaps is the culprit responsible for the name Hammerhead, which would be no one other than its low-slung head having projections of bone on each side, giving it the look of a hammerhead shark. When the hammerhead is younger, the forehead is primarily made up of cartilage. You know, like the stuff that makes up your nose. This makes the forehead way more flexible when passing through smaller spaces in the rainforest. When it grows up, the cartilage hardens and turns into the solid bone that you see right here. But by that time, the hammerhead has enough strength and size to just plow through trees whenever it needs to. Oh, and when knocking down these trees, it's spreading a scent that preemptively warns other animals around it to stay away. The hammerheads travel in small herds, as each herd is on average 10 to 20 of them. So let's say that the scent, the wall, and peacock mode fail to work. Well, if a nearby predator goes in for the attack, the hammerhead has solid bone plates covering its body, mainly protecting it if it gets attacked from the front and the sides. These plates are even strong enough to protect them from other other hammerheads, which is why when these animals get in fights with each other, they try going for the eyes, as it's really one of the only areas of weakness, which is such a mean thing to do, especially because, like me and the stern beasts, the hammerheads have terrible vision. In fact, they have to compensate for this really poor vision by having very good hearing and smell. But going back to their armor plating, it really only covers their front and their sides, leaving their back completely exposed, which is why they routinely form this wall. These absolute behemoths can be found deep in the rainforests or in the grasslands of Pandora, the same type of grasslands that we see the Oolongi clan hanging out in. When it comes to animals that have to walk everywhere, the Thanator is the biggest baddie of them all. In the Na'vi language, it's called Palulukan, translation being dry mouth bringer of fear. I love that translation. In the words of James Cameron himself, the Thanator is the most awesome land predator the universe has ever conceived. This thing could eat a T-Rex and have an alien for dessert. There was a lot of talk about Bengal tigers in my previous videos, and I think that this is the Pandoran equivalent. It's the tiger, or lion. It's the freaking Lion King of Avatar. But its black skin, with just a hint of purple, reminds me of like a sci-fi panther. This 5.5 meter long and 2.5 meter tall Thanator is the literal definition of a carnivore. I'm gonna admit, it's kind of intimidating with its 6 powerful legs, 3 huge claws on each paw, a jaw containing 9-inch long teeth, armor-plated head, armor-plated tail, and just overall, an armor-plated body, making bullets essentially useless. Like the dire horse, the Thanator has 2 sets of operculum. The operculums aren't as scary as the other stuff, so let's give another scary fact. Oh, the Thanator has such a powerful tail that just by like wagging it back and forth, if you're caught in the wagging, you'll probably end up dying. You thought the hammerheads were the ones with the most impeccable senses? No, not a chance. The Thanator can detect its prey from up to 8 miles away and can run up to speeds of 40 miles per hour. A crest containing 10 sensory quills rests on top of its head right here. It seems that creatures like the hammerheads use these crests to ward off predators, while the Thanator uses it to hone in on its prey. Like when it first sees Jake Sully, it raises its quills like it's zooming in on him right before it's about to pounce. Like the Viper Wolves, the Thanator is known to be nocturnal, only hunting at night. So when Jake Sully and friends are seeing it during the daytime, it was pretty desperate for food, just making the overall situation not good. The Thanator hunts by itself and claims a territory of 186 square miles. It does not stray out of this territory unless it's not getting enough food, which explains why we only saw one Thanator in the year 2154. The Thanator is located in the rainforest primarily, but it can also be found in subarctic regions of Pandora. North of Hometree, there's a place called the Valley of the Thanators, and this is the only known area where the Thanators clump together. This valley is their main habitat, and it's also the area where they raise Thanator kittens. The Omaticaya clan, aka the Blue Flute clan, writes songs about everything, but they do not sing or even dance about this monster. However, the Anyurai clan grew a lot of respect for the fierce Thanator. Anyurai are well-known craftspeople, and they will annually construct Thanator totems made from the bones of an actual Thanator. Some Anyurai members will try to tame a Thanator like how the Omaticaya try to tame a Banshee, and they tried turning this into like their own rite of passage. There's only one time where a Thanator has willingly lowered its head just above the ground to allow a Na'vi warrior to make the bond with it. On August 24th, 2154, Neytiri was able to make Sahelu with the Thanator. She was able to work with this apex predator to fight against Colonel Miles Quaritch, further aiding the Na'vi in the fight against the Sky People. In a deleted scene from Avatar 2009, Neytiri also uses the Thanator to kill Sec Ops soldiers like Corporal Lyle Wainfleet. Let's take to the skies. The Shimmy Fly, or Lortziel. The Na'vi translation for Lortziel is beautiful wing, as they're essentially the butterflies of Pandora. The Shimmy Fly has a life cycle like the Earth butterfly we know back on Earth. So it starts as a caterpillar, and then turns into a cocoon, and then transforms into a gorgeous looking butterfly, which is why the Sahik for the Omaticaya, Mawat, has a Shimmy Fly on her jewelry. The Shimmy Fly has a bunch of antennae and 8 iridescent wings, with a wingspan of 1 meter. Its head is located here, and its thorax is located over here, and its tail, that's located over here, sort of acts like the rudder of a plane. As a caterpillar, the Shimmy Fly feeds on leaves, and as a butterfly, it feeds on the nectar of flowers. The only place to find the Shimmy Fly is the Valley of Mo'ata, specifically the Caspavan River, or you may know it as the Na'vi River Journey, a place where humans don't need their breather packs, because scientifically speaking, it was invented by Disney, so tourists could go to at Disney World. The Hellfire Wasp, or Ziz'a. It's basically a weirdly shaped sparrow wasp that we have back on Earth. But imagine if you saw that wasp with a wingspan of like a little over 13 centimeters and the height of it being 10 inches. That would be this abomination. If you look very closely, you can see a whole bunch of Hellfire Wasps when Jake Sully is first attempting to ride a dire horse. If you're worried about running into one of these things on Pandora, don't worry. They typically venture out alone, but they can clump together in swarms the size of one of these mining vehicles. So you won't run into one of them. You'll run into a lot of them. If you ever approach a swarm, they will instantly get angry and go after you. And each one of them is gonna hunt you and use these two stingers that they have right here. One sting from a Hellfire Wasp will surprisingly not kill a Na'vi, or even a human. I mean, one sting can result in unaliveness, but it's not common. But multiple stings can be very lethal, so if a swarm does attack you, you're most likely donezo. If a member of the RDA is stung by the Hellfire Wasp, they are placed on medical leave for a few days. And if you ever find yourself in hand-to-hand combat with this wasp, they're gonna have this very hard, bright and orange exoskeleton protecting them. And if you're trying to avoid these guys, you should stay away from their natural habitats, which would be in the rainforest, swamplands, beaches, steam beds, and mountain valleys. So, all of known Pandora. Using a fallen tree, they build and live in these huge wasp nests, and they usually feed on fruit, tree sap, dead animals, or other insects that they stung. The Tetrapteron, or in the Na'vi language, Whakeo, the Pandoran flamingo. You can see a flock of Tetrapteron when Trudy Chacon Samson passes them during Jake's first mission with the PSYOPs crew. There's two kinds of Tetrapterons, one that's aquatic and one that's arboreal. The aquatic ones look exactly like the arboreal ones, they're just missing their long necks and legs. Here's an accurate depiction of what the aquatic version would look like. And there's not much to say about the aquatic version of this animal because there's not a lot of information out there about it, which is why I will not be including the aquatic Tetrapteron in the water section of this video. However, the arboreal ones are going to get all of our attention. They have 4 wings on their back with a wingspan of 1.5 meters, and they usually come in blue, orange, or purple. If you're looking to find a Tetrapteron, you can find them in the wetlands, rivers, lakes, and forest canopy. Pretty much anywhere where there's going to be like medium-sized bodies of water, as they mainly hunt fish, but they do have these 2 tails used for balance when they're hunting on land. Unlike me, or the Hammerhead Titanothere, the Tetrapteron has really good vision. In Avatar: An Activist Survival Guide, it's said that the Tetrapteron can detect movements as little as 1.25 centimeters from a height of 45 meters. That is just bananas. They tend to hunt together in flocks and behave like viper wolves, as they're very cooperative and communicative. As mentioned like 30 seconds ago, they typically go after fish, using their large beak with a mouthful of glassy teeth to help them scoop up their prey and devour them. I love how these birds are very social and empathetic, as they're known to be incredibly nurturing to their young by providing them with extreme care and attention. This actually earned them the reputation amongst scientists to be the most caring animal on Pandora. Apparently, scientists from the RDA who track the migration patterns of the Tetrapteron once tracked them in a continuous flight for nearly 38 hours. So these creatures are as resilient as they are caring. The stingbat, or Riti, is commonly referred to as a flying scorpion bat, which really sounds like the opposite of a good time. As you may have guessed by now, this bat has a stinger on its tail, thus giving them the name stingbat. If a human or Na'vi gets stung by this animal, they're most likely, they're gonna die. But on the bright side, the stingbat has 4 eyes, 4 arms, and 4 wings with a wingspan of 3.3 meters. Oh, and they also have translucent claws and fangs. Their main habitat is in the rainforest canopy. Unlike the bats we fear back on Earth, the stingbats are nocturnal beings. They find a place to hang their translucent claws and then sleep upside down. You can see them doing such an activity in Dr. Grace Augustine's decommissioned school. Their diet consists of fruit or feeding on small animals like fan lizards. However, swarms of stingbats are known to hunt down larger animals like hexapedes, tapirs, or when they're really in the mood, they go after a medusa. We're gonna talk about this balloon in a second. Even though the poison from a stingbat sting can kill a Na'vi, Na'vi are still known to keep them as pets. The Na'vi are able to partially domesticate the bats by feeding them good old fruit. Like other well-trained birds, stingbats can respond to a call, and they're able to perch themselves on a Na'vi to eat whatever they're holding in their hands. Scientists working for the RDA discovered that the stingbats have a highly developed visual navigation system. However, their small brain cavity and cerebral cortex inhibits their innate survival mechanisms. Despite the constant slaughter, the creatures continue to fly into the range of automated sentry guns that defend Hell's Gate. Like right here, within the first like 5 seconds Jake Sully arrives on Pandora, he gets attacked by a Stingbat that made it past said sentry guns. Luckily, the RDA has these fences in the shape of tunnels protecting entrances into buildings, as well as Corporal Lyle Wainfleet to finish the job. And let me tell you this, the Sky People can lay out as many sentry guns as they want, but that won't get rid of their Stingbat problem, because the Stingbats repopulate like it's their job. Other than sentry guns and Corporal Lyle Wainfleet, the predator that the Stingbat should fear the most would be the Banshees, bringing us to the Mountain Banshee, or Ikran. The Mountain Banshee's natural habitat is surprisingly in the mountainous regions of Pandora, specifically in places like the Hallelujah Mountains. On average, the Mountain Banshee has a wingspan of 13.9 meters. Their skin is covered in these complex patterns, and the colors that make up these patterns could be blue, pink, orange, yellow, teal, green, indigo, brown, and or purple. They have yellow eyes like a Na'vi, but their eyes can sometimes be gray. They have these fish-like jaw structures, so it's believed by scientists that they've evolved from sea creatures that are similar to something like an elu. This jaw is filled with obsidian-like teeth, with one large tooth on the front bottom and top of its jaw, and below its jaw is the iconic horn. The Ikran has incredibly strong cell structure and a skeleton made from carbon fiber composite, which makes the bone lighter and stronger than any bones in any bird that we have back on Earth. In Avatar: An Activist Survival Guide, it's said that xenobiologists continue to study the aerodynamics of the Banshee. It is believed that all of Pandora's flying animals take advantage of the gravity that is lower than Earth's, and the increased air density, which requires more force to displace with the downward and rearward stroke of their wings. The downside is that the denser air is harder to move through, and requires highly efficient streamlining to achieve high flight speeds. Okay, so like science talk aside, basically what you need to know is that this all leads to the animal having the average speed of 37.5 miles per hour. For clans like the Omaticaya, the Mountain Banshee plays a huge part in the Na'vi's transition from a hunter to a warrior, specifically the rite of passage known as Ikni Maya, translation meaning path to heaven. A group of Na'vi hunters is led by the Odoektan in training. They call this leader Aku. Aku is going to take the hunters on this perilous journey up into the Hallelujah Mountains. The Omaticaya climb these route highways to get to a specific rookery on the face of a cliff. This location is called Mons Veritatis, also known as one of the biggest floating mountains, containing what is supposedly some of the biggest banshees. This is where the Na'vi of the Omaticaya try to make the bond with the Banshee. A Na'vi will most likely have no trouble attempting to ride any dire horse, because a Na'vi can make the bond with any dire horse out there. But a creature like the Banshee will only pair up with one Na'vi for their entire life. During Ikni Maya, the hunter and the Banshee must choose each other, during a ceremony where the Na'vi chooses the Banshee and the Banshee chooses violence. If the Na'vi chooses the Banshee and the Banshee chooses them back, the Banshee is going to try to kill the Na'vi. This is when the hunter must tame the creature by forcibly making that bond. Once the halo is made, the rider must solidify the bond by immediately taking the Banshee for their first flight together. After the rider makes the bond with the Banshee, they build and customize their Banshee Q harness. In the Na'vi language, the harness is called Ewa Te, insert rider's name here, Tansei Magda, which translates to the love of Ewa's embrace is gifted to, insert rider's name here. The harness is made to securely keep the bonded Qs behind the rider, so that they don't get in the way or disconnect. A Na'vi that flies the Banshee is referred to as Taranyu, meaning hunter. The origin of this name is actually really interesting. Taranyu was a Na'vi warrior of the extinct Kekunan clan. Back in the day, thousands of years prior to 2154, Taranyu was the first Na'vi to make the bond with the Banshee, and he even invented the Yimka, or Banshee Catcher. You can see this item right here when Jake Sully is using it to restrain the violent Banshee by temporarily securing its mouth, giving Jake a better chance at making the bond. The Na'vi are given this tool at a very young age. At first, it's to play with, and then as they get older, they develop the technique and start taking this tool very seriously, as many Na'vi hunters died in the past trying to make the bond with the Banshee, as the process of Ikni Maya is pretty dangerous. But going back to Taranyu, after observing and rigorously studying away for like 8 days straight following this one Banshee, he took his newly invented Banshee Catcher and caught said Banshee. He then named the Banshee Lotoru. After returning to the Kekunan clan showing off his new Banshee, they then gave him the name Ikran Makto, or Banshee Rider. It's like Turuk Makto, but less intimidating. Anyway, the Tipani clan have the same tradition as the Omaticaya, except they perform the Ikni Maya ritual at Awa Ikran. The Tarangi clan refer to this ritual as Nightmare of the Mountain, and for them, they put their mountain banshee as their totem, as banshee riding is at the center of their culture, even more than the Omaticaya. In fact, the Tarangi clan invented banshee diving, where they fully utilize those fish-like jaws by briefly riding their mountain banshees into the water in order to grab some fish and then return to the surface. While most Na'vi warriors of the Omaticaya clan make their bow from the wood of home tree, there's a different bow specifically made for combat while flying an Ikran. It's appropriately named the Banshee Bow, and you can see Sute wielding one right here. The handle of this bow is made from quote-unquote horn and is decorated with banshee motifs and markings. The strings are made from quote-unquote gut and are decorated with beads and trinkets. But what really makes this bow appropriate for a banshee rider is its design and size. The low placement of the grip and shorter base makes it ideal for flight combat. The Na'vi clans create toys that are modeled after the mountain banshee. This toy in particular has a massive 40-centimeter wingspan and weighs a whopping 0.5 kilograms. It's made from woven twigs, flexible sticks, and is decorated with more sticks, and they also use some more sticks on top of that, as well as twigs, twine, shells, and even more sticks. The toy banshee is there to remind the young Na'vi how they will one day have to go through the process of Ikni Maya, so the toy is there to inspire them to train at taming and making the bond with the banshee, as well as potentially haunt their nightmares, reminding them every night about this very dangerous and life-threatening rite of passage that they're going to be forced to do. Oh no. I almost forgot. The mountain banshee has a cousin, and they're the most threatening and dangerous animal out there. Nah, I'm just kidding. Their cousin, the forest banshee, or Ikran Nai, is essentially the lesser mountain banshee. It doesn't matter if it's the lower or upper canopy. The forest banshee is shockingly found in the rainforest. They basically have most of the features of the mountain banshee, like the obsidian-like teeth, bones made from carbon fiber composite, all of the flight muscles we talked about earlier, mostly similar diet, and so on. Where they differ starts with the size. The forest banshee's wingspan is only 7 meters, making it significantly smaller than the mountain banshee's wingspan at 13.9 meters. The forest banshee still has the neural cues, but because of their size, they can't support a Na'vi rider. On top of all of this, they have less variety in colors, as they're mainly different shades of green, yellow, or blue, to better help them blend in with the forest in particular. The forest banshees migrate in large flocks, but they typically hunt alone, and they feed on creatures like the Prolimerus or stingbat. And if they're feeling really advantageous, they go after larger predators, but only if that larger predator is injured or defenseless, just acting like true alpha sigmas. Mountain banshees are known to fight each other for food, but when it comes to other things eating them, the RDA SecOps teams have observed that the forest banshees are the favorite food of the Great Leonopteryx. The marine Ikran, or Dorado Verde, is another cousin of the mountain banshee and the forest banshee. They're all cousins. However, even though we don't know their exact measurements, in terms of size, it's the smallest out of the three. But the biggest difference between all of them is that the Dorado Verde is built for the ocean. You can see the marine banshee hanging outside of the Metkayina's village right here. The animal hanging out by the ocean and the lagoon explains the black, white, and green color pattern that it has going on. The crest of the animal is pointed backwards, and its chin is pointed forward. On top of that, the animal has 2 fins on its back and a much smaller tail. This partially inhibits its ability to travel on land, but all these features allow the animal to be way more aerodynamic when diving into the water to catch prey. And with a chin that's pointed like that, it uses it like a skewer to stab and catch its fish. And speaking of the Great Leonopteryx, we're gonna talk about the great— oh wait, there's one more. Hold on. Okay, there we go. The Medusa. It's kind of like the Great Leonopteryx if the Great Leonopteryx was like the Medusa. The first ever appearance of the Medusa came into the world through this 1978 painting by James Cameron. You can't really see it in this painting or this sketch from a PsyOps member of the RDA, but in the universe of Avatar, the Medusa has pink and purple skin. This creature is 15 meters in diameter, and these tentacles can grow up to a comfortable 35 meters long. Some of you may be thinking that this jellyfish is not the most aerodynamic creature out there. Like, how the f is it able to fly? Well, the membranous sac, or bell, right here is filled with hydrogen gas that it produces by consuming prey. The bell then pulsates to propel the animal in a certain direction, giving the death bubble the ability of flight. It ascends by using fluids from its trim bladders, and it disperses the hydrogen gas to lower itself. They typically fly/float over the mountainous regions of Australis, so I find it wild world that we haven't seen this creature appear in the comics or in the movies. It's difficult for these animals to navigate because of their size, build, and how they are in general. So until it's in fight mode or hunting prey mode, this animal is going to be drifting in the wind. This fleshy belt of optical sensors located right here supply the animal with a 360-degree view of the ground. Like me, this animal is always hungry. And also like me, they use tentacles that are about 3 to 8 centimeters in diameter to sweep across the rainforest floor in search of food. According to scientists, these tentacles make a faint swishing sound that causes nearby animals to scurry away. Once it touches an animal, the tentacle curls up and grabs it using an incredibly strong grip. Then it sends an electrical current down the tentacle to knock out its prey. This shock is actually powerful enough to kill a human being. So in case you're not convinced yet, stay away from the Medusa. The Medusa uses these tentacles to raise the stunned animal into its mouth, and that's the circle of life. They typically feed on the Tetrapteran, the Prolimerus, Hexapedes, people, and even the Slinger, making the Medusa the real MVP over here. Just Stingbats and banshees are known to sometimes target this animal as prey, even though most of its body is inedible. Na'vi and scientists of the RDA consider these battles to be quite the spectacle. If the Medusa is being chased by a predator, this jellyfish is not going to release ink, but it will release all that hydrogen gas we were talking about earlier, and this will definitely send all the predators away. And if the Medusa ever gets punctured during one of these fights, the jellyfish is going to wildly move around like a helium balloon that just got punctured. You know, a 50-foot tall deflating balloon just going wild. But this strategy definitely scares away any attacking predators. Oh, also, if the Great Leonopterx is running low on food, it will go after the Medusa as well, making the Great Leonopterx the only predator that will consistently hunt the Medusa. In Avatar: An Activist Survival Guide, it said that during mating season, regions of the southern continent of Australis are blackened by the shadow of the Medusa swarm, as it swirls in a dance of interlocking tentacles. I don't want to see mating season. We finally arrived. The Great Leonopterx, or Turuk, meaning last shadow, because for the Na'vi, they learned the very harsh lesson that if the Great Leonopterx casts its shadow over you, it's gonna be the last shadow you ever see. The RDA PSYOPs members refer to this creature as Leonopterx Rex, meaning flying king lion. This flying lion dominates the skies over the mountainous regions and the rainforests of Australis. And if you don't know this, Australis is the big old continent that clans like the Omaticaya occupy. Turuk is like a mountain banshee, but bigger. To be more specific, the Leonopterx has more than double the wingspan of your average mountain banshee, as its wingspan is on average 25 freaking meters. Their wings are actually really neat, as they're composed of individual finned members that can separate and act as slotted airfoil, or overlap and seal to form a solid surface. When separated, they can rotate individually to induce or prevent vortex formation. They have the same carbon fiber bone structure as the banshees, which is the only way these massive creatures can ever leave the ground. Like the banshee, they have 4 yellow eyes, obsidian-like teeth, and really good eyesight with binocular vision. They have 2 tails like a Tetrapteran, and unlike the stingbat, Turuk has a very large brain cavity, making it highly intelligent. Its skin has a bright striped pattern of scarlet, yellow, and black. We've only seen like one of these puppies since Avatar started, so maybe they vary in color. We don't know yet. The midnight blue crest on the front of its face is used to cut up and disembowel prey. The crest is also really good at cutting through greenery when flying through the canopy, so they can get to prey in order to cut them up and disembowel them. Oh, and speaking of prey, this animal is the literal definition of a carnivore. Their jaw structure allows them to open up their mouth so much that they can chop down on like half their prey at once. If we're talking about something like a mountain banshee, whether they're chomping down on their prey with their jaws, axing them up with their crests, or grabbing their prey with their talons. The Leonopterx will snack on animals like the Hexapedes, but they mostly eat mountain or forest banshees. And as we discussed previously, the forest banshee is the #1 snack on their menu. I don't know if they prey on Thanators, but I would love to know that information. As you hopefully know by now if you've been watching this video in a linear fashion, which I highly recommend you do, the Great Leonopterx will occasionally go after a Medusa. The Leonopterx travels alone, but is known to sometimes travel in pairs, as the Leonopterx mates with another Leonopterx for life. But other than that, they do tend to ride Jason Derulo style, solo. In fact, other than procreation, the Leonopterx tends to avoid its own kind, as these animals are extremely territorial and violent. If you thought creatures like the Thanator take up a vast amount of territory, it doesn't even compare to the amount of territory that the Great Leonopterx takes up, which is why we only see like one Leonopterx the entire time that we're watching Avatar 1 or 2. This animal is gonna go after pilots operating aircrafts like the 1899 Scorpion gunship or the SA-2 Samson. It's assumed that this animal deemed these aircrafts as predators encroaching on its territory. This is one of the main reasons as to why the Scorpions are seen escorting one of the shuttles into Hell's Gate right here. Scientists from the RDA's Avatar program once observed a 3-hour territorial dispute between two Turuks, a battle that ended with both the animals falling to the ground because of their injuries, and then their bodies being devoured by a bunch of viper wolves. It was quite the sight to see. But while we're on the topic of love, the flying lion breeds every 2 years. And like terrain birds, they hatch out of eggs. But where are their nests? You know what? Where are their nests? So the Leonopterx has rookeries that are almost impossible to find. Heck, no one even knows where the Leonopterx resides at night. The only rookeries that have been spotted by Na'vi or scientists were in the Hallelujah Mountains. In an activist survival guide, it said that the Great Leonopterx is crucial to the Na'vi's sense of destiny and interconnectedness. Na'vi clans like the Omaticaya fear the ever-living f*** out of this creature, but at the same time, they respect it. So they create dances and songs and totems for Turuk. Savaro of the Taukavi clan tells children the fictional story about young Na'vi getting eaten for stealing a Leonopterx egg. And speaking of totems, the Na'vi of the Omaticaya clan went out of their way to make their totem the Great Leonopterx. And they constructed a physical totem to this beast in their now extinct home tree, using the skull of the old Turuk as the centerpiece. It's probably a good time to bring up Turuk Makto. It's said by someone at some point in time that when the Na'vi are faced with insurmountable odds, also known as times of great sorrow, Turuk appears to help the Na'vi out. Only a Na'vi of a pure soul can ride the beast, and the rider is called Turuk Makto, meaning rider of last shadow. This is what happens when some either brave or incredibly stupid Na'vi has the audacious idea of making Sahelu with Mr. or Mrs. Alpha Sigma over here. It's said that long ago, Turuk Makto helped save the Tree of Souls from a natural disaster. Many Na'vi warriors, including Ralu of the Omaticaya, have attempted to make the bond with Turuk. Since the time of the first songs, there have only been 5 Turuk Maktos. The first songs being the first time that the Na'vi start recording history through songs. This would make Jake Turuk Makto the 6th. By the way, Neytiri's grandfather's grandfather was Turuk Makto the 5th, meaning it's been 4 generations since the last Turuk Makto. In August of 2154, Jake Sully assumed that the Leonopterx would never have to look up, and he was right. The way that the creature evolved, it physically couldn't look up, as the brow ridges above its eye prevent it from seeing what's above it. So Jake Sully jumped on the beast, made Sahelu with it, became Turuk Makto the 6th, and was able to lead the neighboring Na'vi clans into battle against the humans of Hell's Gate. Doing this in order to save the Tree of Souls, again. History was repeating itself, except this time, the natural disaster was humanity. After the humans were defeated and sent home, Turuk was released back into the wild, and we haven't heard from them since. Hundreds of millions of years went into that thing called evolution. They gave us the terrifyingly beautiful, and sometimes just terrifying sea life that we see in Avatar The Way of Water, or in the OG Avatar. We're gonna start with anemone or fuat, which are these invertebrate-like specimens that have these tentacles that are full of toxic stuff. So they grab onto and poison smaller fish in order to eat them. The anemonoid is mainly found in lakes or ponds, like the one that Jake and Neytiri are seen taking a little swim through right here. The anemonoid is 1 meter in diameter, and like an octopus, it can blend in with any of the bioluminescent plants or creatures surrounding it. But the times that it wants to be seen, it uses a wide array of bioluminescent colors to attract smaller fish, so it can eat them. The squid. I can't find the name for this in the Na'vi language, so honestly, I think I failed you. I think you should unsubscribe from my channel. I think you should stop watching this video. I think you should really just do the whole 9. But to be fair, not much is known about this squid other than the fact that it has like 12 tentacles, 2 protruding eyes, and its now iconic orange and yellow glow. Oh, and the fact that it's a squid. I'm assuming that we don't know a lot of information about the squid because the design of the creature was pretty last minute. They needed an animal that was able to glow and represent Pandora's network of energy. So at the end of the Way of Water, when Curie is able to access this network, the large schools of glowing hammerhead squids are able to physically be there to represent the pathways of energy, as the yellow squids form a path to navigate through the ship to help Curie and her family get out of there, while at the same time representing the Way of Water and how all things are connected. They're representing the pathways in the network of energy that can be seen during Dream Hunt or in Dr. Augustine's research. The gill mantle. This marine invertebrate is about 2 to 3 meters tall and has a wingspan of over 1.5 to 2.5 meters. Most of its internal organs and necessary stuff for it to function is located right here, and the rest of the body is basically one big translucent lung. When oceanic clans like the Mechaina need to stay underwater for long periods of time, they use the gill mantle. The Na'vi attaches this creature to their back and then make the bond with it like how you would make a bond with a Pale or Banshee. And then boom, you now have what is essentially an external gill to breathe underwater with, so you don't have to worry about running out of air when gathering stuff from the reef or waiting for your dive partner to finish using the spirit tree. In the book, The Art of the Way of Water, concept artist Dylan Cole talked about the design of the gill mantle, specifically about these parts right here that grab onto the Na'vi, making it kind of like a secure backpack. Saying that James Cameron talked about the gecko feet to hold on to the ribs, they do kind of look like gecko feet. Specifically talking about how they used the gecko feet to make it appear that the animal was latched onto the Na'vi. And that was needed, because some of their characters are going quickly, whether they're riding an elu or swimming fast. I love how the gill mantle glows red when bonded with the Na'vi, and I can't express enough how much the reef people love the gill mantle. It hasn't been proven by the RDA scientists yet, but it's hypothesized that the gill mantle co-evolved with the Na'vi through their symbiotic relationship, as the Na'vi look out for the gill mantle. The Na'vi got the gill mantle's back, and the gill mantle usually rests on the Na'vi's back, so they figuratively and literally have each other's backs, as the Na'vi take the gill mantle everywhere, in the ocean, in the lagoon, other places. Another observation that proves this coevolution is how the gill mantles have these stingers on them, kind of like a stingray. They're located right here on their back because that's where predators usually attack them from. However, these stingers will not harm a Na'vi, as the Na'vi use these invertebrates on a daily basis and probably developed an immunity to them. And to bring the mood down, because why not, the gill mantle only lives for about 5 years. The reef tick, or sea key. This leech, or literal tick of Pandora, is mainly found in the shallow waters of the ocean. It's about 0.6 meters large. I don't know if that's width or tallness, but that's just what the books say, so there you go. It has 4 black eyes, a green body with 4 blue legs, 2 blue leg-like appendages that act as feeding mandibles, and it has a reputation amongst the science community as a sheer, awful, terrifying menace to society. No, I'm just kidding. Scientists consider this beast to be relatively harmless, unlike the slinger. The reef tick has a symbiotic relationship with the Sagittaria, an animal that we're going to talk about in like 15 seconds. The reef tick feeds off the food that the Sagittaria leaves behind, but the Sagittaria is like cool with the reef tick following it all the time because the tick cleans the cavities of the Sagittaria's shell. Oh my goodness, what a coincidence this is. It's the Sagittaria. In the Na'vi language, the name for this thing is called Skuka. As you probably know by now, the Sagittaria has a symbiotic relationship with the reef tick, as the Sagittaria is also found in the shallower parts of the ocean, and even in places like the Valley of Mo'ara. The creature is about 1.2 meters long. They typically have purple and blue skin, with a white and brown shell, and this puppy right here can fit an entire Sagittaria into it, as the Sagittaria, the animal that we're currently talking about, retracts its entire body into the shell if it needs to protect itself against predators. It has 10 muscular tentacles that it uses for legs, and it has 4 muscular tentacles next to its mouth, giving it an octopus-like face. These 4 face tentacles are used to attract or feed on prey. They tend to prey on smaller flying creatures by spurting jets of water at them, knocking them into the water, and then going to town. The shell on its back is used by Na'vi clans for beads, armor, shields, arrows, blades, and various other tools. Oh, the glider fin. The RDA scientists refer to this one as the forage fish. You can find these little potatoes in the ocean, but they're typically found in the shallow end of the lagoon. The only time that they're actually found in the open ocean is during the migration seasons. The glider fin plays a fundamental role into making sure that the entire ecosystem doesn't starve. As this fish is eaten by the Mecaina, every marine bird that we're going to talk about, elus, skimwings, aquulas, and basically everything that's a carnivore in the ocean. These things never really had a chance. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more depressing, their average lifespan is only a year, but they're typically eaten before they can live out the entirety of that year. The only thing that's keeping the species from going extinct is how quickly they can reproduce, as a single glider fin can lay up to 200,000 eggs in their lifetime. That is 200,000 eggs within 1 year. And you thought hexapods repopulate like bunnies. The hammerbrow is almost as defenseless as the glider fin, which is why it has these two eyes on the front of its head that go like this. These eye extensions allow for a better field of view, so the creature can avoid being eaten by various other predators, one of which being the Mecaina clan. So in order to better survive out there in the reef, the hammerbrow usually stick together in schools of up to like a dozen of them. Not much research has been collected about the hammerbrow yet, but we do know that they have these valve-like pits located over here that allow filtration and extraction of oxygen from the water, which is pretty spectacular. Now let's start talking about the starbeak, because why not? This is basically the pufferfish of Pandora, but without the abilities of a pufferfish. It will huff and it will not puff, and it will definitely not blow up into a big spike-covered ball. It has a yellowish body with black and white stripes, and 6 dark blue fins with light blue edges. It's rocking 1 pair of upper pectoral fins, and another pair of lower pectoral fins. These are used for steering, and it's also rocking 1 upper and 1 lower caudal fin that are used for propulsion. Why am I talking about fins? Because there's not really that much interesting stuff going on with this guy. If the creature spots a predator using its 2 side-facing eyes, I honestly don't know what it's gonna do, because it's like a pufferfish, but without the one thing that gives a pufferfish a chance. For those who need to know, it has 6 stubby tentacles surrounding its mouth that's located all the way down here. What a weird creature. Next up, we have this, I actually can't find any information about this fish. Moving on, another fish that can be found in the reef is the syringal, which is clearly inspired by the look of the terrain manta ray, what with its long tail and large flat fin protruding on both sides of its face. And, oh, yep, actually that's all the info on this fish too. Okay, the feathertail fish, or in the Na'vi language, nothing, because I don't know the name for this in Na'vi, but the sky people refer to this animal as longtail fin. Not much is known about this fish, but marine biologists working for the RDA had observed that the feathertail has 2 sets of eyes that provide the creature with an enhanced spectral range. This fish also has slightly iridescent patterns on its main 2 fins right here and here. Like the glider fin and the hammerbrow, the feathertail's main job is to be prey for larger animals out there on the reef. Except for the Mecaina. For them, the meat from this animal tastes incredibly bitter. So the Mecaina avoid it, kind of like how I avoid the calls about my car's extended warranty. The flatscape fish, or in the Na'vi language, you know what? I don't have the name for this one either. But what we do know about the flatscape fish is that it's the opposite of the feathertail fish when it comes to taste, as the flatscape fish is actually considered to be a delicacy amongst the Mecaina. The taste of the fish is exquisite, but it's a delicacy because they're extremely difficult to catch. There's something about their split tail at the end of their body, combined with the large fin on top and small fin on the bottom, that allows the fish to do this kicking motion that propels them through the water at incredible speeds that have yet to be recorded by scientists. Their ability to escape predators so quickly makes it so that even the most experienced hunters struggle to reel in this fish. There is an otter in the world of Avatar. We don't know too much about it, other than these 3 photos that appear in the art of Avatar: The Way of Water. The front of the animal bears a striking resemblance to the otters that we have back on Earth, which is probably the reason that they called them otters. Its dark gray and white body has this armor shell plating that kind of looks like the shell of a lobster. It starts at the back of its head and then goes all the way down its back to like the way back. This armor plating is highlighted with bright yellow patterns, similar to something that we saw in earlier drafts of an elu. It has 2 arms on the front and 4 paddle-like fins on its back. According to concept artist Dylan Cole, there was a delightful scene with Took and the otter playing together in the water, but this scene was ripped out of the film and never shown to the general public. I like that we have an otter in Avatar. I don't like that we haven't seen it in Avatar yet, but I like that it's out there. The pincerfish, or Slowapek. Now we're getting introduced to the hunters out there in the reefs of Pandora's oceans. Their stingray-like body has flaps that are referred to as the moonfin, which is honestly like the coolest name for a fin. This moonfin helps the creature move through the water in a motion that's replicating the movements of the waves. The fish is covered in colors reflecting the coral reef, so it can better blend in with the coral reef. This is why people subscribe to my channel. The pincerfish has a nice, friendly relationship with the Na'vi, but if you're a fish that is smaller than the pincerfish, it gonna hunt you! See, this is like the moonfish, because the two tusks that are attached to the front of its face right here form the shape of like a death-bringing crescent moon, and these puppies are used for catching prey, guiding prey into its mouth, digging up sand at the bottom of the ocean floor. Actually, that one doesn't seem that violent. Oh, never mind. It says right here that it digs up the sand in order to catch and devour crustaceans. And of course, the tusks are used to assist the pincer when fighting against other pincer fishies. The fights or territorial disputes between the pincers have been compared to jousting matches. The Dinoctoid, or Stratka, forgive my pronunciation. This is commonly referred to as the giant gargoyle fish. Scientists fear this thing. Well, they fear everything on the planet, but you get the point. Even though the Dinoctoid is only like 3 meters long, this creature is still referred to as fierce, vicious, savage, brutal, violent, cruel. The Dinoctoid is found in lowland waterlands like lakes, ponds, streams, rivers, and murky drainages. It's an omnivore, so eats plants and every fish that can fit in between its two large beak-shaped teeth right here, and it even goes after larger prey sometimes. According to scientists, a school of Dinoctoid can bring down an entire small sturm beast, mainly because a group of PSYOPs members once recorded a school of Dinoctoid taking down a young sturm beast who wandered too far into a waterhole by itself. Knowing how overprotective the sturm beasts are towards their young, it really just makes that story way more tragic. The Dinoctoid swims around like a snake. It uses the fins extruding from here and here for both propulsion and steering. Oh, and I love the orange stripes. We gotta love the orange stripes. Speaking of appearance and looks, according to an activist survival guide, the Dinoctoid can pulse with bioluminescence to take on the appearance of a smaller, more docile creature to lure prey closer. Conversely, it can control its markings to appear even larger and fiercer. Some scientists do fear that the theatrical displays of the Dinoctoid would cause some corrupt scientists working for the RDA to smuggle the fish back to Earth, and then fearing that the fish would escape into our sewer systems, making the Earth even more of a miserable place to be at that point. Finally, we're here. The turtipede, or Mawu. Words have been used to describe this animal, and those words would be docile and slow-moving. The turtipede is living it up by relaxing their entire life away in freshwater lakes or rivers, and some have even adapted to start vibing in saltwater oceans. This reptile is on average 5 to 6 meters long and 4 meters tall. It has an armor-plated body and 6 claw-like fins. As the turtipede gets older, its dorsal fin and tail will increase in size, so it has to continuously shed its outer shell in order to better accommodate said fin and tail. The younger ones, the younglings, are yellow with purple highlights and lack any bioluminescent qualities. They're pretty dim. By the time it reaches adulthood, the turtipede turns pitch black with blue highlights and receives a full-strength armor-plated shell. And of course, it's given its bioluminescent colors that shine through the transparent parts of their shell. I forgot to mention that the turtipede can grow beyond 5 meters long and 4 meters tall. That's just like the average size. In fact, they get so big that some of their shells are used by Na'vi as rafts. You can literally take their shells sailing. Finally, my favorite animal in Avatar, the Ilu, or in the Na'vi language, Ilu. I know some of you out there may be thinking, Bryce, you already talked about these animals in your really toasty Mecha Explain video. Aren't you just gonna be repeating the same exact information in this video? Well, of course I am. But I'm gonna be adding a lot more info, so pay attention. Sky people call this bundle of joy Jiao Long, referring to the dragon in Chinese mythology. In the book The Art of Avatar: The Way of Water, concept artist Dylan Cole went on to say that the Ilu is kind of like the plesiosaur. Oh wow, it is like the plesiosaur. Look at this? I'm just seeing this for the first time. But Jim didn't want it to be so obvious. They were trying to infuse a sense of fun into the elu's personality. When you take something that might, at first sight, look like a plesiosaur, but give it the personality of a dolphin or a seal, it becomes playful. The elu's got 6 fins and a rudder-like tail that allows the animal to travel up to speeds of 32 knots, or 37 miles per hour, which is exactly how fast the average cruising speed of a Banshee is. The elus grow anywhere between 2 to 15 meters long, with the average size being roughly 7 meters, and they can live up to 55 to 60 years, or 1,735,630,930 to 1,893,415,560 seconds. So a Na'vi could in theory outlive 2 generations of elu, as a healthy Na'vi can live up to 30% longer than a healthy human. Their 4 orange eyes are also pretty rad. The initial design of the elu had bright yellow patterns covering its entire body. Dylan Cole and his team made this with the understanding that they really wanted the elu to stand out in the reef. But then James Cameron showed up, looked at the design, and was all like, I wanted the elu to have yellow accents, not to have the entire thing yellow. But regardless, the team decided to go back to the darker colors that we see in the final film right here. And they did keep some of the yellow. The colors and patterns on their body are colored that way and shaped that way to better help blend in with their surroundings on the reef. If you haven't already noticed, the elu has a really long neck, and it has a lot of special organs located in the head and this neck that allow them to generate high-frequency sounds for echolocation and long-range underwater communication. They use this neck so that they can keep their head above water so that they can breathe through their 2 nostrils on top of their head and exhale through these openings at the bottom of their neck. They physically use this neck to peek their head out of water to look around for like their friends or nearby predators. But the long neck is mainly used for hunting. Let me explain. The length of their neck allows their mouth to hit their prey before the pressure wave of their entire body does, giving them the advantage when violently reducing the gliderfin population, or the hammerbrow population, or the feathertail population, or when they're eating smaller mollusk-like crustaceans at the bottom of the seafloor. Like the skimwings or the gillmantle, the elus are essential to the reef people's way of life. And like a pale, the elu has 2 kuru, or neural whips behind their heads. Like the pale, any Na'vi can make the bond with an elu, as they're not bonded for life. But elu riding does take a lot of time to learn. Not as much time as like learning how to ride a skimwing, but it's still a good amount of time. In fact, before riding an elu, younger members of the Metkayina will have to navigate through the lagoon using a 1-person canoe in order to fully understand the surrounding territory, so the Na'vi has a good lay of the land, or in this case, ocean, before attempting to ride the dolphin dragon. When bonded with the Na'vi, the elu is able to supply oxygen through the bond to the rider, so the Na'vi and elu can spend more time submerged underwater. Reef people like the Metkayina are gonna hunt larger prey with the skimwings and smaller prey with the elus. After a Na'vi learns how to make the bond with an elu, they then attach the elu saddle to their elu. The young Metkayina are then tasked with the responsibility of riding their elu around the reef, so they can scare away potential predators that may be going after young Metkayina or elu ponies. As the elu and Na'vi have a symbiotic relationship, both species look out for each other's children. So elu will protect younger Na'vi, and Na'vi will protect younger elu. Elu typically go hunting as a pack, so they can easily deter larger predators who enter the lagoon. Reef people clans like the Metkayina also have wooden toys modeled after the elu. Here is said toy, the skimwing, or Sturak. In the Art of Avatar: The Way of Water, concept artist Dylan Cole went on to say that this might be his favorite animal because of how complete it feels. This big old crocodile is halfway between a fish and a mountain banshee, as it has the ability to swim underwater as well as the ability to fly over water. They're the Ikanon equivalent for the Metkayina, and biologically speaking, the mountain banshee and the skimwing have common ancestors. These 14.6 meter long crocodiles have the wingspan of, I still don't have the measurements for that yet. Okay, hold on. I don't. Maybe in the visual dictionary, ? And as someone who has checked Avatar and Activist Survival Guide, Avatar the Visual Dictionary, Avatar the Way of Water Visual Dictionary, and the Art of Avatar the Way of Water, I found nothing. But thank you to Dylan Cole for at least attempting to answer this very specific question from a 26-year-old adult male who has Clearly too much time on his hands. Every skim wing has a pair of wings with a unique set of patterns on them. The wings are made up of these thin membranes of skin webbed between tensile cartilaginous spines, allowing the creature to easily spread and retract its wings to become more aerodynamic underwater. And this caudal fin at the end of its tail helps propel it through the water when it's submerged. Then when exiting the water, the wings spread apart like an accordion, all thanks to that good old skin webbed together by the cartilaginous spines. Thanks, cartilaginous spines. These pectoral and pelvic fins at the bottom of the creature, as well as the caudal fin, helps the creature stabilize when gliding over the water, allowing it to fly up to speeds of 50 knots, or 57.5 miles per hour. They have these lung gills located on either side of their body, right here and right here. These lung gills allow them to breathe above water full time, and they also allow them to breathe underwater full time. It's the best of both worlds, honestly. It's the Hannah Montana of lungs, meaning that they can drown and they can't suffocate. The skim wing is able to snack on most fish that we mentioned so far, as well as small aerial creatures and land creatures. You can find these absolute tanks all over the eastern seas, especially outside of any Metkayina village. Skim wings are an essential part of the Metkayina's way of life, as they help the Metkayina defend their home against larger predators, as well as give them the ability to go out and hunt larger predators. The reef people have their own version of Ikni Maya, where they will have to tame a skim wing, except this process is more gradual and not as quick as making the bond with the mountain banshee. As mentioned earlier in this video, the skim wings don't necessarily bond for life with the Na'vi. And on top of that, even if it happens, the skim wings need a lot of bond time in order to earn their loyalty and trust, making them incredibly difficult to tame. But once that trust is earned, and the Na'vi makes the bond with the skim wing, they are ready to be considered a warrior amongst the Metkayina. This is all really unfortunate because skim wings only live for about like 20 years. That's only a fraction of the rider's life. Because how long is a Na'vi's lifespan, everyone? That's right, 30% longer than a human's. So after all this time making the bond and establishing that connection, the rider and the skim wing really don't have that much time together. And on that dour note, let's talk about the next fish, the Nalutsa, the OG orca whale equivalent of Pandora. It's 40 meters, or 131 feet long, has 3 pairs of flippers, 6 gills, a long tail that looks like the end of a plane, and one shark-like mouth filled with incredibly sharp teeth, as well as armor plating or shells covering its entire back. The Nalutsa is one of the most bizarre animals I ran into, mainly because it's not known to eat smaller fish or other plant life under the sea. No, that would just be too easy or logical. Instead, the way that this behemoth hunts is by leaping out of the water to catch their prey, meaning this animal's main diet consists of various flying birds. So this oversized monster has to hunt in the shallow waters. It's illogical hunting strategy, and the way it's able to maintain its size and strength completely baffles scientists. Like seriously, how is it getting enough food? The adult Nalutsa teach this very counterintuitive hunting strategy to their children, for some unfathomable reason. The larger cousin of the Nalutsa is the Akula. We last saw this delightful fishy when it was attacking Lowaka Three Brothers. According to concept artist Dylan Cole, James Cameron wanted the Akula to be the Pandoran equivalent of the great white shark, which definitely explains the name Akula, which is the word for shark in the Russian language. And that was the starting point. And then one day they were like, you know what sounds fun? Let's give the Akula a 3-part mouth like a rattlesnake, which is honestly a sweet design. So if you combine the danger of a snake with the danger of a shark, you got a grade A abomination in the greatest way possible. The design of the mouth allows the animal to dig through the coral in the way that it does. But unlike its cousin, their tail is more pointed, and they're missing armor plating, as the shells are replaced with a sharp ridge that's in the shape of a fin, giving it more of a shark-like body. The removal of the shells allows for the color of the animal to better blend in with the surrounding environment, so it can be more effective when sneaking up on prey. The Oluetan of the Metkayina, Tonawari, made a necklace out of the teeth of an Akula, because for them the Akula is as culturally significant as the Thanator is to the Omaticaya. The Akula hunts like the Nalutsa, but the fact that we see the Akula go after Lawak shows us that it does hunt more than birds, that it's somewhat logical and hunts other fish underwater, unless it was only attacking Lawak because it felt threatened and was defending its territory. Who's to say? Well, the creators are to say, but I don't have that information. It's that time in the millennia. It's Tulkun time. Tulkun are modeled after the whales we have back on Earth. As you probably would assume by now, in the world of Avatar, the whales that we have back on Earth are definitely extinct. And thanks to Amrita, an age-pausing compound that's harvested from the brains of the Tulkun are definitely going to be the next whales to go extinct because of humans. Just one vial of Amrita is worth $80 million back on Earth. The RDA was able to figure out that if they send a squad of SetOps or cetacean operations to track down, kill a Tulkun, drill a hole above the roof of its mouth into their brains so that a crew can then harvest the fluid, they can make bank. Anyway, much like our whales, the Tulkun are air breathers. As they inhale and exhale through their front and back row of nostrils, they can travel up to 22 knots or 25 miles per hour and can live to be 150 to 250 years old. Their neural cues are located inside of their mouth because this is where they store their calves when they're needing to protect them from danger. In the book The Art of Avatar: The Way of Water, James Cameron went on to discuss the design of the Tulkun, saying that during the design process, he felt like they were struggling to keep the essence of what you'd immediately recognize as a whale, yet the specific details had to be very alien. The example that he used for the artist was the dire horse. You look at it, and it's clearly a horse, but when you really get to study it, it is some strange alien dinosaur that has horse-like properties. He wanted the same thing with the Tulkun. There should be no doubt in your mind what the metaphor is, but the specifics of it are very alien and strange, and totally unique to that species. They eventually settled on this design, something alien, but very familiar at the same time. Because of how smart these animals are, they actually aren't referred to as animals by scientists. Instead, scientists refer to them as an intelligent species. If we were to rank the sentient species on Pandora by intelligence, it would go Tulkun at number 1, then the Na'vi, then the Prolimerus, and then the humans, as no other sea creature out there in Pandora compares in intelligence. For example, the Tulkun have names for each other. They also have complex language, culture, art, music, history, understanding of mathematics, and sonar capabilities, as well as philosophy, which brings us to why they're so peaceful. The Tulkun have a long, extensive history of war and bloodshed and all that good stuff. But then one day they were all like, hey, you know what we should stop doing? That. And from that moment, it was ingrained into their culture that the Tulkun are sworn pacifists. Mind you, to make this decision as any other animal on Pandora would be foolish. It's a freaking frenzy out there. But the Tulkun can get away with this massive lifestyle change because the male Tulkun are anywhere between 28 to 80 meters long, and the female Tulkun are anywhere between 20 to 70 meters long. What about centimeters? Okay, I guess we can do centimeters. That would be about 2,000 to 8,000 centimeters long for the male, and 2,000 to 7,000 centimeters long for the female. And you know what? Actually, why stop there? The female Tulkun are anywhere between 20 to 70 billion nanometers. This intelligent species is equipped with heavy armor plating, so they don't need to worry about protecting themselves against predators. Well, that's until other humans enter the chat and then start hunting them. Na'vi from the Metkayina may not necessarily pair up with the Skimwing for life. They do, however, pair up with the Tulkun for life, calling them their spirit brother or sister. Each home in every Metkayina village has a special hand-woven wall panel dedicated to art honoring their spirit sibling. The Metkayina also make wooden toys modeled after their Tulkun brothers and sisters. Like the Tulkun, the Metkayina's history is full of conflict and hardship, so both species have chosen to live as peacefully amongst each other and their biome as they possibly can, which is why Tonowari is so against Lo'ak spending time with the supposed killer Tulkun, as Tonowari and the rest of the Metkayina share a similar mindset as the Tulkun philosophy. Tulkun and Na'vi from a clan like the Metkayina give birth around the same time, so the Metkayina share their first breast ceremonies alongside their spirit brothers and sisters. A ceremony that consists of young Na'vi getting calmly thrown into the water and then getting lovingly guided to the surface. It's the Metkayina's baptism equivalent, don't ask me. The Tulkun spend most of their time in open sea, but once a year, a large pod of Tulkun will pick a day to annually visit a lagoon that is home to Na'vi like the Metkayina. The Tulkun refer to this lagoon as their reef home, and this event is called the return ceremony. Their spirit brothers and sisters will enter through underwater tunnels in the reef, so they can arrive directly outside of the village. During the return ceremony, Tulkun calves and Na'vi children are recognized as adults. Spirit brother and sister bonds are created, and of course everyone else is just reunited. This is also the time that the intelligent species receive their tattoos from the Metkayina. Oh, and for those wondering, Tulkun reproduce reproduce every 2 to 3 years. The gestation period is on average 18 months, so like double of a human's. And the tulkun kafud is about 10 years. The tulkun seeing their spirit siblings is definitely a huge bonus to this trip, but it's not the main reason they return every year. No, the main reason is the spirit tree. The tulkun will bring their newborn calves to something like the Cove of the Ancestors, specifically something like the spirit tree, so that their calves can make their first Sehelu with the global consciousness that we know and love called Eywa. The Mekaina and the tulkun will experience their children's first communions with Eywa together. Thank you again to our sponsor, Surfshark VPN. And just a quick reminder that if you click on the link in the description below, type in promo code BRYCE, you're gonna get 83% off and 3 extra months for free. And that's everything I know about the fauna in Avatar right now, mainly when it comes to stuff like the comics and the movies or the rides that they have at Disney World. I could make additional videos on Avatar Reckoning or Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, so let me know. Anyway, if you made it this far, bravo, and thanks for watching.